Hello, and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's April 4th, 2019, and this is episode 17. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. New in theaters this week are three major releases. First one is called The Best of Enemies. This is a historical drama from STX Entertainment. It's directed by Robin Bissell, and it stars Taraji P. Henson and Sam Rockwell. Based on a true story, The Best of Enemies centers on an unlikely relationship between a woman played by Taraji P. Henson, who is an outspoken civil rights activist, and a character played by Sam Rockwell, who is the local Ku Klux Klan leader. So this is set in North Carolina in 1971, and based on true events, these two people are asked to co-chair a community summit that is battling desegregation. And so during this racially charged summer, these incredible events that unfold change the city and change the lives of these people forever. So this looks like a very good drama. Again, terrific actors involved with Taraji P. Henson and Sam Rockwell, and it looks like a very compelling film to me. I'm looking forward to seeing it. The Best of Enemies is rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association of America for thematic material, racial epithets, some violence, and a suggestive reference. Next up is a remake of Stephen King's Pet Sematary. This is a horror film from Paramount Pictures. It is based on the 1983 novel from Stephen King, and I know that people who like Stephen King novels, I think this is one that's quite popular. You know how I feel about horror films, and I feel the same way about horror novels. It's a pass for me. But this film was adapted in 1989. This novel was adapted into a 1989 film, and then this film that's being released this Friday is a second film adaptation. So it's got the tagline, "Sometimes dead is better." If you're familiar with the story, and I guess a bit of a spoiler alert, but if things get buried in this particular pet cemetery, they come back to life. So, and not necessarily back to the state they were before they died. So, I'll just read the synopsis here. Based on the seminal horror novel by Stephen King, Pet Sematary follows Dr. Lewis Creed, who in this particular film is played by Jason Clarke, who after relocating with his family from Boston to rural Maine, they discover a burial ground hidden deep in the woods near the family's new home. When tragedy strikes, Dr. Creed turns to his unusual neighbor, Judd Crandall, who in this film is played by John Lithgow, setting off a perilous chain reaction that unleashes an unfathomable evil with horrific consequences. Pet Sematary is rated R by the Motion Picture Association of America for horror, violence, bloody images, and some language. Again, this is a pass for me, so you're going to have to let me know how this remake of Pet Sematary is. And then, finally, this week is a comic book movie from Warner Brothers and DC Comics. It's a film adaptation of SHAZAM. This is directed by David F. Sandberg, and it is they're touting it as a family-friendly comedy, and I've seen SHAZAM, and so I will be reviewing it here momentarily on this podcast. But SHAZAM stars Zachary Levi as the title character, but SHAZAM doesn't. He's a teenage boy who gets endowed with these powers, And when he says the word Shazam, he turns into this superhero. So, again, more details to come up, but Shazam is rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association of America for intense sequences of action, language, and suggestive material. All right, so 3 films new in theaters this week: The Best of Enemies, Pet Sematary, and Shazam. I've got 2 films I'm going to review this week on the podcast. First up is a movie that opened last week. It is Walt Disney Studios' remake of Dumbo. And this remake, as in most these remakes that Disney's doing now, have a combination of live action or actual actors, as well as a very photorealistic computer-generated component, whether that be characters or backgrounds or whatnot. So when people call these the live-action remakes, I personally just like to call them the live-action photorealistic CGI remakes. Maybe I should make that into an acronym or something. But this film merges the familiar narrative of the 1941 animated classic Dumbo with a brand new story. And again, a lot of these, Dumbo and Mrs. Jumbo remain constant in the film, and they're kind of polite to be together. But a lot of other stuff gets added. This film was directed by Tim Burton, and Tim Burton has a very distinctive visual style that he likes to employ in his films, and I think that's one of the strengths of this film, is that it looks great. It's set in the United States in the year 1919. This circus troupe, the film starts out in Florida. That's where we meet. It's the Medici Brothers Circus. That's what they've named it. And I just love the aesthetic. I thought that they turned this circus theme into something that was quite romanticized and fun rather than dark or scary or weird. So I think there's a sideshow element to this circus, but you can tell it's fakey and it's fun, and it's not like it's really this whole misfits concept either. It's just these are just performers that are working, and they're part of this traveling circus family. Of course, they travel on Casey Jr., the train. They travel around the country and set up the big circus tent, to have these circus shows. But basically, what this is the Dumbo story is the first part of the film, the Dumbo story that we're familiar with, but it's been integrated with a lot of these different characters from the circus. These these humans, the live action component. And then it has the second, I guess that's more like the first act, the first third of the film is the original Dumbo, and then the next 2/3 really take the story into a different direction, or just kind of create a brand new adventure for our favorite flying pachyderm. So the main characters that have been added are the circus. So the Medici Brothers Circus, as it's Max Medici, who's played by Danny DeVito. He's the ringmaster, and even though it's the Medici Brothers, really is just Max. And we never meet the other brother. It looks like they just show a picture of him, and I think it's just a kind of a little altered image of Max. I think as an homage, to the Ringling Brothers. Then the main character of the film is a guy named Holt, who is played by Colin Farrell. And Holt is the father of 2 children. Millie and Joe are their names. And Holt has been off fighting in World War I. So again, this movie is set in 1919. So it's just at the end of World War One, and Holt rejoins the circus without an arm. He loses. He's lost his left arm in the war. So the CGI wizards at Disney have removed his arm in every one of the shots that he's in, and then sadly also he's lost his wife, and so the two kids have had to be cared for by the circus family, and now he's reunited. They're reunited with their dad, but he's a kind of a broken man because of his injury, as well as, before the war, he and his wife had a successful circus act with horses. And then sadly his wife died, and they sold off the horses too. So Max puts Holt and his two children in charge of the elephants, since the horses are gone. And the one of the elephants is a new one, and her name is Mrs. Jumbo. So, of course, we're familiar with Mrs. Jumbo. And Mrs. Jumbo is pregnant. And so she has baby Dumbo. And we kind of know then what happens there. Dumbo gets made fun of. Mrs. Jumbo, becomes the protective mama and gets locked up. And in this case, she gets sold. And so, basically, the film is just Dumbo wanting to reunite with his mom. And then these kids help him to learn how to fly. So Timothy Mouse really isn't playing a role in this film. But these little kids help Dumbo learn how to fly. And Dumbo then becomes a big part of the Medici Brothers circus, being able to fly. And this is all, again, in the first third of the movie. And the Medici Brothers circus just becomes wildly successful because of Dumbo. This then puts them on the radar of a big circus magnate named V.A. Vanderveer, who's really just kind of your traditional evil businessman, played by Michael Keaton. And he owns this destination circus attraction and amusement park called Dreamland. And so Michael Keaton's character buys out the Medici Brothers circus and all their performers, but of course the main thing he wants is Dumbo. And they get to Dreamland, and at Dreamland we meet a character named Colette, who's played by Eva Green, who is an aerial artist. And the idea then is to have her and perform with Dumbo. She actually learns how to ride Dumbo, and they fly within the big top. And again, it's a part of the spectacle. But as we mentioned, Mrs. Jumbo, she's been sold to Dreamland. They figure it out, and really this 2/3 part of the film, which take place in Dreamland, become a big animal rights story, and as well as Dumbo wanting to reunite with his mom, but it just takes it on a very different kind of turn. Again, more for modern audiences or a modern sensibility, given how people view circuses these days, etc. But I would argue that it's not necessarily Dumbo. It's more of a kind of a new Dumbo adventure. It really reminded me, I just kept thinking of the 1993 film Free Willy. And I don't know if you remember that. There's, it's on the film's poster and on the big climactic scene where the kid is helping Willy, the killer whale, jump out of his enclosure, and over the barrier and into the ocean. And I think this movie should be called Free Dumbo. And it's just kind of where it went. It's not a bad film. It's not a great film. It could have been a lot worse. Again, charming to look at and some nice things, but again, not really a film that we needed. And sure, it stars Dumbo, but it's not really Dumbo. It's kind of its whole own thing. I've got a review of it also on my blog if you want to check it out. And that is Dumbo. Next film I want to review is SHAZAM. This is the latest superhero film from Warner Brothers and from DC Comics. Now, DC Comics has been in a bit of and Warner Brothers, they've been in a bit of a catch-up mode for the wild success of what Marvel Studios has had with their films. I think Marvel's has just had a more focused, disciplined approach, and plus the movies have been better. Just in my opinion, this film is more of a family-friendly film. They're touting it, although it's rated PG-13, and it definitely earns its PG-13 rating. It has some fun. It's played up much of it for comedy. Now, if you're not familiar with SHAZAM, now I remember SHAZAM as a kid. It ran from 1974 to 1976 on CBS Saturday morning. That's when I remember watching it, and it was a live action television program. And I'm going to put a link to the beginning of SHAZAM on in the podcast notes, so maybe it'll trigger your memory if you see it too. But it it's about a teenage boy who gets endowed with these powers that if he says the word Shazam, he turns from a teenage boy into this superhero that can fly and can have some gnarly control of electricity, and he's bulletproof, and he can do some other things. So this film version is an origin story, the quote unquote origin story where we learn about Shazam and how he's gonna fit in now with into this DC Comics universe. This boy's name is Billy Batson, and he's played as a young teenager by Asher Angel, and I think that he does a really nice job. The kid is troubled. He's streetwise, but he's been in foster care. He was abandoned by his mother at an early age, and so he's really just been wanting to find his mother. He's convinced that his mother's still alive, and that she's going to want to be with him. That this was just kind of an accident. So it's caused him to go bounce from foster home to foster home, and he ends up in this one particular foster home with that has like 5 other kids in it, and really loving parents, but he befriends a kid who's handicapped, named Freddie, who's played by Jack Dylan Grazer. And so Billy and Freddie, they become buddies, and Freddie in a way is kind of like his sidekick, but he's really more just like kind of a superhero fanboy. But Billy becomes Shazam, and then the two of them, both Billy and Freddie, then have to figure out what his powers are and how this whole thing works in a lot of ways. And I've heard other people talk about this too. It kind of plays like Big. If you remember the movie Big with Tom Hanks in it. But so when Billy turns into Shazam is played by the actor Zachary Levi. And he does a great job. It's almost like he's channeling his inner Tom Hanks, where he can play a teenager in an adult body, and not only an adult body, but a body that's really able to do some pretty amazing, superhero type feats. So then we've got though the big villain, some major big forces and forces of evil. Mark Strong plays the villain Dr. Thaddeus Sylvana, and Dr. Sylvana has really got a bone to pick with Shazam. This one I won't give away. I'll let you discover it if you go see the movie. But Mark Strong is a good actor, and he plays a good villain. So Billy Batson / Shazam has to figure out, number one, what he's about, if he's just going to kind of be a silly teenager, or when he's faced with this really formidable villain, what's he going to do? Is he going to be a hero, or just kind of be selfish and silly? So that part's pretty cool. I think where maybe it's not that great for me, and where they're touting it as being all family friendly, the villain is pretty dark. He's got his minions are pretty grotesque looking, and they're also really, really violent. So it's a bit jarring going from kind of the happy-go-lucky, funny part of it, and then when the villain shows up, I think it probably is going to be pretty scary, particularly for younger children. So again, just be sensitive to that PG-13 rating, because I think it's pretty accurate. As I mentioned earlier, it's rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association of America for intense sequences of action, language, and suggestive material. So, I thought Shazam was fun. It's got those end credit scenes. I felt like they were, again, just copying Marvel. So, again, really enjoyable. And I know I'm a little biased, but I still feel like DC's catching up. This is a nice piece of work overall, and I think audiences are going to go crazy for it. But I still just feel like Marvel's Marvel's got the edge, and we'll just see how this plays out. So anyway, that's Dumbo and Shazam. Thanks so much for listening. Again, links and more information about all the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be past or present ones. Thanks again.